Intro to AAC. I'm Reiko Anderson. We also have Kim Ohashi monitoring the chat today. If anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt either by turning your mic on, or you can type a question into the chat. Again, my name is Reiko. I am a speech language pathologist. I've been an AAC SLP at North Van since about 2014. I also teach AAC at UBC in the speech pathology program, and I've been running an AAC summer camp since 2022. So more information about that is available. It's going to happen hopefully again this summer. And so if you would like more information, feel free to contact me. It's also called Panda AAC Camp, and you can Google that as well. I do want to let you know about a couple posters and things that are out there and you might see circulating, and you might want these as well. We have one for our training events coming up this fall. We do have this session on this poster, but we also have a series of 4 online sessions at 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursdays. We'll be talking about communication partner strategies. That's a series of 4 sessions. One of my schools' Wednesday afternoons are better, so they've blocked off 4 weeks to watch the series after school on Wednesdays. That's when their staff meetings are. They will be recorded again, and feel free to watch them when it works for you, but we'll be talking about like a word of the week program. We'll be talking about communication partner strategies and all those things. So that'll be a nice next step to follow up with this intro to AAC. You may also see this red and orange poster floating around. I know people are printing them in black and white as well, so it's black and gray, but we do have some important QR codes. One of the ones I want to point out here is this troubleshooting. That will lead you to our iPad troubleshooting page. On that page, we have some common problems. I also encourage you to Google if you're having like a minor iPad issue. But if you ever encounter a broken iPad, then we do have the process for replacing a district iPad at the bottom of that page. So that keep that QR code sort of handy for when you need it. We also have links to our Teams, our YouTube channel, our events page, and our Instagram. As I mentioned, we have, this is my Instagram actually, and it's at Reiko AAC SLP right here. I also have the Panda AAC Camp Instagram linked in my bio. I do make highlights of different categories of videos that I put up here, and we also have our YouTube channel. We have a lot of playlists there to fill your needs. If you ever email me a question, especially a tech question of something you can't figure out, I'll often reply in video because I don't like writing out or reading tech instructions. So feel free to email me if you ever have any questions as well. So this is a screenshot of our blog. It's a little bit tricky to find. You can't just Google NVSD blog or anything like that. We're working on that. But for now, this is the QR code that'll take you to our blog. I'll also make sure that you get a link to it when I send you the slide deck and things like that. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see iPad troubleshooting and you'll see events there. Under events, you'll see our posters that we make, but also any slide decks and links to YouTube videos I'll put down at the bottom under past events. So on to today's content. We have a whole bunch of sort of basic questions that people have when they start out their journeys with AAC. So we've kind of compiled them all here today. Our first question, what is AAC? AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. Augmentative means that we increase. So we have something that we are trying to increase. So somebody might have some speech and we're going to try to augment that. So fill out their communication. It might be that their communication is difficult to understand, or it might be that they are only able to produce a certain number of sounds or a certain number of syllables before they're very difficult to understand. So augment means to increase something that is already there. It could also mean that somebody's communicating using gestures and facial expressions, and we're trying to give them a more conventional way of communicating and augmenting that communication as well. Alternative means that we have one option and then we have another option. So an alternative option. And again, we might be communicating with words or gestures, and we have another option now to communicate. And communication. You might also hear the term multimodal communication. It used to be that we would describe AAC users as nonverbal, where, that terminology, I still hear it around, but what we're hearing from adult AAC users is that they don't like that terminology. They do not like the phrase nonverbal, because most of the time it's actually just like not true. Most of the AAC users I know at some point in their life might develop some speech, some vocalizations that can help them be understood. And so we wouldn't really call that nonverbal. We have on this graphic, we have speech and vocalizations, but all these other ways of communicating. We have robust AAC systems, which we're here to talk about today. We have handwriting, gestures, texting. Now, I do want to point out that you and I also use multimodal communication. We also use body language. We also use facial expressions, and we also probably text, right? And so by calling somebody a multimodal communicator, some people think that, well, aren't we all multimodal communicators? And I would say, yes, we are all multimodal communicators, but it is inaccurate to say that somebody is nonverbal most of the time. And it's a deficit-focused phrase. So we're focusing on the things they can't do, right? Whereas if we call somebody a multimodal communicator, it acknowledges all the different things that they're able to do. Another phrase we can add to that is that they're an AAC user. So, as we go about with our IEPs and things like that, I try to, as much as possible, advocate to delete the phrase nonverbal and add in things like multimodal communicator, AAC user, and to actually describe all the things that this child can do in terms of communication. Another term you might come across is neurodiversity affirming practices. And that really acknowledges the change in terminology. What I'll do is I will, when I upload this to YouTube, I will link, I don't know if it's over here or over here, some YouTube videos that we have on our channel that might be interesting to you. So we did do a lunch and learn on neurodiversity affirming practices, and I'll link that for you in the YouTube video. In terms of those robust high-tech systems, the apps that we have most commonly in this district are TouchChat and LAMP Words for Life. Now, we also do have Grid for iPad for some students and TD Snap. I would say that of them all, TouchChat is probably our most commonly used. So today I will be showing slides of TouchChat, but the strategies we're going to talk about today are very general. And so they can be used with any of the systems, or even a non-tech system, really. What's the difference between a talker and an iPad? We do tend to call our communication systems talkers. And actually, as we get older, we can change that to whatever the student wants to call it. An iPad over here might have videos and movies and photos and all sorts of fun things, right? A talker only has the AAC app on it. Now that's important because say somebody was watching, I have Avatar on the screen here. So say somebody was watching Avatar. If we had both the movie and the communication app on the same iPad, that person wouldn't be able to say anything about it. But if we have Avatar on one screen and the communication app on another screen, we would be able to talk about what's going on in the movie. So it's important that we keep sort of like fun things over here, and not that communication isn't fun, but communication over here. And that creates better communication habits, especially if we have a student that is prone to perseverating on certain videos. It does provide us with an alternate iPad so that we can continue to provide communication opportunities outside of those videos as well. So what's in an AAC system? I don't know how many of you have searched for AAC systems online. There are a ton of them out there. Some of them are $1, some of them are $400. We do tend to choose AAC apps from reputable companies that have specific features in them, which we'll talk about right now. Sometimes we have a parent saying, well, I found this one for $1. And when we look at it, often you get what you pay for. And so they're missing some of the common AAC sort of features that we're looking for in an AAC system. This is a handout from Emily Diaz. It is TouchChat at a glance. I have a QR code here. This will take you to our TouchChat playlist on YouTube. So you can search for different functions that you might want to do on TouchChat, like editing or what have you. On the TouchChat screen, we have a vocab button here and a menu button here. Now, you're not going to use these very often, but this is where you would go to change settings and that kind of stuff. And also if you're going to be doing any backing up, it's really, really important to back up. Basically, you have an iPad and you have an app. And within that app, we have a bunch of different customizable templates. So we might have, for Reiko, we might have a Reiko document, say, within TouchChat. And we want to make sure that that gets backed up, because if that iPad ever dies for any reason, we still have a backup of all the customizations we've done to my vocabulary. Okay, so the other things we have here on this page, we have some function buttons, right? So we have a clear button, delete button, period button. We have some pronouns here, which are yellow. We have some verbs here, which are green. Yours might look a little bit different, but we have some prepositions here in blue. We have some pink little words. Along the top here, we have some navigating buttons. We have a people button here, questions, actions, places, social. So under social, you would find things like thank you, I need space, that kind of thing. Time. And under groups, we have all of our categories. So whether you're looking for clothing or animals, you would find those under groups. And then we have describing words. So we have a really robust system, we would call it. We have a lot of different word categories, a lot of different vocabulary, a lot of different functions. And those are some of the things that we're looking for: the ability to back up, the ability to use a bunch of different words from a bunch of different categories. We also have LAMP, again, similar sort of pronouns, verbs, and things like that. Up here, I have the QR code if you want to take a look at the playlist. I'm not going to go through each and every app right now, but if you're interested in these handouts, you can Google Emily Diaz, LAMP at a glance, for example. We also have one for Emily Diaz, Snap Core First. Google that if you want this handout, but also we have the QR code if you would like to look up our playlist. And finally, we have Grid. The vocabulary set that most of my students are using in Grid is this one, and it's called Supercore 50. Again, we have a QR code here if you would like to be linked to our playlist. Next question, can I customize our district-funded AAC system? Absolutely. All of our district iPads, district talkers, have the same password. If you know the password, you're allowed to edit, okay? So if you don't know the password, get in touch with your SLP or your AAC SLP in the school district, and we can help sort you out. Generally speaking, some guidelines. Don't mess with the core vocabulary. We'll talk about core vocabulary in a second. Don't mess with the system's built-in logic, and make sure you search for the word first. Sometimes people are looking inside the school folder and they can't find the word pencil. But it might be that pencil lives somewhere else in the system. For example, a pencil doesn't always just live at school, right? It can live out in the community, it can be at home. It's not just a school tool. So we would actually find pencil under art, I believe. Under art, we have different things for writing. Pen is also under there, marker, all sorts of stuff. So that would be where you would look for pencil. So again, by searching for the word first, I'm not messing with the system's built-in logic. The logic of the system is that pencils aren't just for school. And when we think about the lifespan, we want the student to learn that pencils live elsewhere, right? It's not just going to be for school. Maybe one day they're not in school, so somebody replaces that school button with something else, and then they can't find the word pencil, right? This might be a long way for some of you. So in TouchChat, there is a way to search for words. In all four of the apps I mentioned, there is a way to search for words. You might have to Google it. I'll just show you one way. In TouchChat, you go into the ABC 123 button in the upper left-hand corner, and then on the bottom left-hand corner, there is a find word button, and that'll guide you through where to find the word that you're looking for. If you are on another app, please Google for instructions on your app, or we can help you out with that if you need some support. How do I make sure my child doesn't edit things accidentally? This is actually a great, huge concern. One time I went to a school and my student was really upset because she had accidentally copied and pasted. I still to this day don't know how she did it. She took the word turn and copied and pasted it on the whole screen. No idea how she did it. So there are two sort of safeguards that we have for making sure that that doesn't happen. So I have my talker here. I'm going to show you guided access. So you know how when your iPad goes to sleep, you have to, every time you do this and you have to punch in the password, right? Now, in order to stop that from happening, what you can do is turn on guided access. You triple click that top button. If you have one of the iPads with the front button, that's the button you want to click, but it's triple clicking. 1, 2, 3, really quickly. Oops. If you ever see this menu, well, you might be getting some reflection here. All you need to do is press start again, and it'll send you in, and make sure you don't change the password. Okay, so now I'm in guided access. It says guided access started. It just flashed really quickly. Now, when it turns off or goes to sleep now, when I wake it up again, it'll go straight into touch chat instead of asking me for a password. The other thing is that I can't get out of touch chat and go play my games or anything like that. So that kind of locks us into talker mode, which is a great function. So those two things are great. Another thing that you can set up is, and if you got a talker from us, then we've probably already set this up for you. But if you go into menu, see how it goes into my menu, and I can then edit and things like that. If I turn my settings on and turn on my menu password, if you need help setting this up on a home iPad, I can do that for you or help you with that. So now I've set up my menu password and it asks me for a password, right? So as long as my student doesn't know the password, they can't edit the screen in any way. So I do recommend that you turn that on if you have an exploratory learner and they're apt to poke around and things like that. So what is core vocabulary? Kim, I'm going to ask for your assistance on this one. Okay, so maybe turn your audio on. So Kim, do you like hot dogs?
Yes.
Okay, what do you like on your hot dog?
I like ketchup and mustard.
Excellent. So now imagine that we are at a hockey game or something like that. I would like you to talk about the game using this communication board.
Rather challenging.
Yeah. So most people say you can't. Okay, so I'm going to give you something else. This is a screenshot of Touch Chat on the main page. Now talk about the game.
Yeah, I could say I like to watch them play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good,
Or just
good.
It's good. Yeah.
It's good. I want to eat.
I always like to do go, go, go. So you can actually communicate with about pretty much anything with this page, right? Excellent. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
So what we've demonstrated here is that this homepage of Touch Chat, and all the other apps have a great homepage as well, is core vocabulary. Now, about 80% of what we say as speaking people is the same 200 core words. So in the English language, there are 171,000 words, but we just use 200 of them. And that covers most of what we want to say. So when we think about AAC user, these are really important words. Now, I know that we have a few teachers in the audience here, and so there's a lot of overlap with core vocabulary and what we used to call sight words. I think different schools call them different things now, like heart words and all sorts. I've heard other terminology out there, but these are the words that are high frequency. They happen a lot in reading. So we learn sort of to read them as whole words as opposed to sounding them out every single time. So like I said, there's a lot of overlap there. So words like I, the, all, in, out, open, right, go, these are all high frequency words. They happen a lot in our language. Now, Kim said she likes ketchup and mustard on her hot dog. So it's really important for Kim's communication system to make sure that we have the words ketchup and mustard in them. We would call this fringe vocabulary. Fringe vocabulary is really important so we can get the words we want. Now, there's different levels of fringe vocabulary. So even though relish is a fringe vocabulary word, it's not a core vocabulary word. It's not as important to Kim to have the word relish in her communication system. It's really important to have the words ketchup and mustard in her communication system. Now, it could also be that Kim really likes sauerkraut, and when the makers of TouchChat programmed their device, they didn't put the word sauerkraut in there. So we might then need to go in and edit and add the word sauerkraut so that Kim can get what she wants. So remember that when we program these words in, we should really focus on the words that the student needs, that the child needs. Sometimes people are like, we need to put the word worksheet in here. But I guarantee you there's no student that wants to talk about those worksheets, right? They might want to talk about like the cars that are on the page, but there's not a lot of students out there that would say, I want a worksheet. So this question I get a lot. Why are there so many buttons on this communication system? There's different ways to answer this question, right? So number one, it's because we want to have as many vocabulary words as possible in the system. And in order to put as many words as we can in the system, we need as many buttons on the page as we can fit, as long as vision and fine motor are okay. So as an example, some of us remember texting on flip phones. Now, in order to text on a flip phone, the makers of flip phones had to put all 26 letters on 10 buttons. So there were more than one letter per button. So in order to say the letter C, I had to press the number 2 3 times because it would go A, B, C, right? It took forever to text anything because you would have to spell each letter, and each letter was often more than one button press, right? So like a word like C would be A, B, C, and then A, and then I think S is like, I don't know, ST or something like that. So it could be like 6 button presses to spell the word cat. But now we have these fancy smartphones with full keyboards in them, right? And so when I want the letter C, I just press the letter C. If I want the letter A, I just press the letter A. And we even have word prediction that comes up above that to even further enhance how quickly I can type. And so that's kind of the same when we think about AAC, right? If I only had 10 boxes per page and I had 30 foods that I wanted to put in there, well, I also need a home button and a delete button and a clear button and a button to get me to my verbs, for example. So really, I only had 6 buttons. And in order to get all 30 of my foods, I might need 5 pages, right? But if you are on WordPower 60, that has 60 buttons per page, you might be able to fit all 30 foods on one page. So it saves time in that in order to find the word, I don't have to press multiple buttons to get there. So that's why we put as many buttons as we can on the page. People also ask us to hide buttons, and I don't like doing that for 2 reasons. Say, for example, we've decided that my student doesn't understand in and out, so we're going to hide those buttons. Well, that means that the adults supporting that student can't say in and out, so they can't teach it. So then the student is never going to learn in and out. Also, if we hide too many buttons, I might not have enough words to sort of take me across enough scenarios. So I might actually not find this AAC system very helpful, and it might end up sitting on a shelf, right? So I don't like hiding buttons. The other reason I don't like hiding buttons is if I hide buttons, I then have to unhide buttons, which makes a lot of extra work that we don't need. What we'll talk about in a little bit is an alternative to hiding buttons. Okay, so how do we teach AAC? Now, some people expect that, we're going to just put these AAC systems in front of kids and they're just going to start using them. But that's not the case, right? We need to teach kids how to use AAC and adults. So what we're going to do is something called modeling. You may have heard that word before. So in modeling, you use the talker for words you say, for words other people say, and for words that you think your child is communicating. And one of the key things about modeling is we need to model without expectations. Now, when I was putting the slide deck together, I decided, oh, you know what? I'm going to put a cute thing about modeling without expectations. And when I Googled it, there were so many options. And so I think that really speaks to how important this concept is, right? How much we want you to model without expectation. So what does that mean? It means that I'm going to be basically a newscaster, a sportscaster, and talk about all the great things happening around this kid. And I'm going to use the AAC system to do it. But what I'm not going to do is, okay, now you do it, and try to get them to press a button. I'm not going to take their hand and make them touch a button. Those are things I'm not going to do. I'm just going to model without expectation. I'm just going to talk and augment their language input with this visual support to help it get into their brains better. So here are some examples. We have a kid here making some choices. He has some fruit. You know what? I'm just realizing I don't know what the snack is. We're going to call it chips. And he's making a choice. So when I model without expectation, I might say, oh, I like strawberries. I like chips. I wonder, which one do I want? And so I'm just sort of like talking about my thought process. Now, remember how I said that we're not going to hide buttons? What I'm going to do instead is model. I'm going to show the buttons as I say them. And by doing that, the student will learn where the buttons are, what they mean, and all that kind of stuff, because I'm going to model them in context, right? The other thing I want you to notice is that I'm not creating full sentences here, right? I'm just modeling keywords, because when I say, I like strawberries. Oh, hold on. I like, okay, groups, right? It might take me a minute if I'm new to Touch Chat to put that whole sentence together. And this student is not in a sentence kind of place. They're just learning Touch Chat. They're just producing single words right now, or being expected to learn single words. So I don't need to be modeling full sentences. If I have a student that's already creating full sentences, then my modeling might look a little bit different. But I think that for today, what we're talking about for the most part is kids that are just learning their early words. So I can just model single words. I like strawberries. I like chips, right? This person is looking out the window. And sometimes what I see in schools is people are saying, oh, come over here, come over here. But in this scenario, I think that sometimes some students have difficulty shifting their attention from one thing to another. So I might actually bring the iPad and put it against the window so we can see outside and we can see the iPad all at the same time. And I just sort of talk about what's outside. So I might say, oh, look, I like that car. Look at it go. I see some kids playing. Oh, the car stopped at the light and now it's turning. So again, the focus is on me providing language input with some visual support and not focused on what the child is producing. Here's another example. Oh, wow, look at that. Look at that giant hamburger. I need to open my mouth and it goes in. It goes in. Oh, I wonder if you can eat it all. Oh, eat that hamburger. Oh, I like hamburgers, right? This is not about wanting or making requests. It's just about talking through the process. I might even say, oh, look, the person across from you is also eating a hamburger. That looks really good. I want to eat more. Refusing is a really, really important communicative function for a lot of our students. Sometimes students are refusing using other means. So they might push, they might hit, they might scream, they might be doing a whole bunch of other things. That is communication, and it's not bad, right? They are letting you know what their needs are. But what we can do is show them an additional, more conventional way of communicating the same thing. So if somebody, if one of my students is refusing, I might say, oh, you're telling me no. I don't want that, right? I'm not saying, no, you can't do that. What I'm doing is, oh, you're telling me, no, thank you. Okay, we don't have to do that. And it's really important that we reinforce when kids are refusing in a positive way using words. What I'm not going to do is say, oh, you're telling me no, now you press it, right? I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, oh, you're telling me no, we can stop. And requesting. Again, in this situation, this kid, I can see that this kid wants the book, right? I might say, oh, you want the book? I want the book. I need help. And I might get the book and give it to her and say, yeah, I want the book. You told me I want the book. I'm not going to say, now press want, because I know she wants the book. That was a clear message. Me just saying that she has to press the button is frankly just like not neurodiversity affirming. All forms of communication are great. We're hoping that they will learn alternate means of communication for other people, right? So we have familiar communication partners. As a familiar communication partner, I know that she wants something. In this situation, it's really clear, but some students have different ways of requesting, right? Like if a student does this, that might mean I want something. But as somebody who's not familiar to them, I might not know that that's what it means, right? So then we need a more conventional way of communicating that. So a way that everybody can understand and not just the people that are close to me. So that's why we need the child to learn how to say help and want, but I don't need to force them to say it because they know that I know what they want, right? I think that this is the hard part with home as well, right? Home knows what the kids want. And so, and the kids can get what they want, just like they just go over to the fridge and open it up and grab their snack, right? So families often say, I don't need to use the AAC system at home, but you don't need to like stop the kid from doing their gestural communication with you. You don't need to stop the kid from going into the fridge and getting their drink. But what you can do is add to the situation by modeling language and interpreting all the great communication that they're already doing. And that helps to support communication at school. It helps to teach the kiddo what this AAC system is for. So home has a really important job too. How much should I model? There's different people that throw around different numbers. One thing I've heard is 60 times an hour. So that's once per minute. But a lot of kids who use AAC are kind of like on topic for a short period of time, and then they need to go regulate themselves. And then they come back for a bit and they're on topic for a little while, and then they need to go regulate themselves. So it might be that within like my 5 minutes where the student is regulated, I'm just like modeling language. Might be that they're dysregulated. I'm still modeling, but who knows how much they're listening, right? But it's good for me to keep modeling because sometimes kids are listening even though they don't look like it. So as much as possible is the answer. This is a graphic that went around a little while ago, and it says by 18 months, babies have heard 4,380 hours of spoken language, and we don't expect them to be fluent speakers yet, right? When we think about an 18-month-old neurotypical child, they might be speaking in single words, but they're not producing sentences or anything like that yet, right? And so it's the same with AAC users. If they have just started receiving modeling of AAC, sometimes after a couple of weeks, people are like, oh, they're not pressing any of the buttons. That is absolutely fine, right? It takes a while for kids to learn to use the AAC system. Now, say if AAC learners only see symbols modeled for communication twice weekly for 20 to 30 minutes, it will take 84 years for them to have the same exposure to aided language modeling as an 18-month-old has to spoken language. So if it's only 20 to 30 minutes twice weekly, it's 84 years. We can do better than that, right? So if we can model more, hypothetically, we can expect results sooner. So, when we see a child who's not making progress with their AAC system, we always take it back to the modeling. Are they seeing modeling across the day? And, when I see kids that are progressing really quickly, I go back to the modeling and I say, what are you guys doing that's making this kid progress so quickly? And it turns out that they're modeling a ton across the day, across environments. Everybody's doing it, right? So model as much as you can. How do we get started? You, the communication partner, need to learn to speak AAC. So you need to learn where the words are in the AAC system. Start by modeling single words, not sentences, just single words. Learn one word at a time and keep learning new words. They say AAC is not a sit-down activity. It is a habit that we need to implement like across the day. So think about what you need to create a new habit, right? So say you're somebody that's like, I need to exercise more. Well, what do you need to do to support that? Are you a person that just says, I'm going to exercise more, and you just do it? Because most people aren't, right? They need to buy an app or get somebody to teach them how to do it. They need to start tracking how much they're running. Whatever it happens to be, give yourselves a little bit of support. One way that I support some of my teams is to implement something called a word of the week. I find that doing one word a week is usually a little bit too slow. So I'll often choose 2 words a week, like pair them. So we might do eat and drink the same week. We might do finished and more the same week. We might do go and stop the same week and sort of put things into pairs like that. And that week, what we're going to do is focus on those 2 words. So say the first week, we're going to focus on go and stop, right? So as I go about my day, I'm going to model go as much as possible. I'm going to model stop as much as possible. I get to the next week, and the next words are, say, on and off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is model on as much as possible. I'm going to model off as much as possible, but I have not forgotten about go and stop, right? So each week I'm learning new words and increasing the number of words I can model, the number of words I know. And that's the best way to keep the momentum going. I'm continually learning new words. I'm continually modeling more. Now, some of you are more exploratory learners, and some of you will just start pressing buttons and just figuring out where things are. You guys don't need the support. If you're a little bit apprehensive about this process and don't know where to get started, a word of the week program can be a really good way to get started. Okay, so say you're feeling really, really overwhelmed by this. That is okay. A lot of people do. There's a lot of words on that homepage, and it can feel like a lot to learn. So this is a hierarchy of learning needs for AAC users. I just want to remind you that modeling without expectation is right here in that second tier, and relationship and connection are really that bottom. And, that's what you've been working on, right? Whether you are a new teacher to the student, you are a family member, you have been working on that relationship and connection. And now it's time to add that second tier, that modeling without expectation. But you have been working on something, and that is that relationship and connection. And without that modeling without expectation doesn't really have the same effect. So you are doing lots already. This is a nice quote that came from Dr. Buchelman. So having a communication device doesn't make you an effective communicator any more than having a piano makes you a musician. The thing that makes you a musician is practice. And you haven't practiced the AAC system yet. So you might not be an effective communicator with the AAC system now. But as you increase your practice, that will improve. Trust me, it'll work. So what's next? We have a 4-session communication partner series that's coming up, as I mentioned at the beginning, please sign up for that. We are going to be recording it. You can watch it at your leisure. I hope to introduce a couple core vocabulary words and a communication strategy each week. And it should be lots of fun. Do it with some friends. Okay, another thing that we're going to have coming up, we haven't figured out our dates yet. We're still waiting to hear back about our venue, is our parents' events.
We do have a date.
Oh, we do?
Yes, it is Thursday, February the 5th.
Perfect. So on Thursday, February the 5th, we will be having a parent conference at the district office. We're going to do it at the district office in the conference room. It's really nice. So please come out, meet other parents of AAC users. We usually learn about something. I don't know what that is yet. We'll also do another online event that'll be a little bit more chatty and a little bit more opportunity to meet some other parents and chat with them. And we'll do that again in probably the spring. So look out for those invitations. Now, does anybody have any questions? I feel like I talked about a lot of things very quickly, but I'm gonna actually, I promised you I would turn the sharing off, the recording off. So for those of you who are watching the recording, thank you very much, and good luck with your AAC journey.